Hey everybody, and welcome to our third summer PAC meeting. And talking about tonight, we're going to summarize some of the items that we had last meeting. We have some additional information to share with regard to quarantine. Officially, the county has not released its guidance yet. When it does, we will have that posted on our website. But I think we can give you sort of a general overview of where the county is headed. Again, welcome back, everybody, and it's all good to have you here for the PAC. So without further ado, what I would like to do here is let's go to the presentation. And so let's go to our first slide here. And so again, want to stress the good news is that North County and other schools in the region, we're returning to school in person for all grades 5 days a week, full time. School is starting Thursday, September 9th for K-12. The bus schedules have been posted in the Infinite Campus portal. I think, that's important. So that's where you can get that information as well. Next slide, please. Any specific questions related to COVID-19 and back to school that you would like to address, please email to communications.org. However, routine questions, specific questions, school supplies, Infinite Campus, transportation questions. We're going to share a contact list at the end of this presentation, and that will be posted. That's the best way to get the quickest, most direct, most up-to-date, and accurate information that's specific to your need or to your specific school building or program. So we will provide you with that information here. So let's look at the next slide, please. So we talked in the last slide about a tiered mitigation approach, and we led you through the chart that talked about the different levels of infection rate throughout the county. This is similar to that which is employed by the 24 schools within the Capital Region BOCES, as well as with the Warrens, Saratoga, Hamilton, Washington, Essex BOCES, and the Questar BOCES as well. So we mentioned here a tiered approach, and the tiered approach to mitigation, again, we're looking at, okay, how do we maintain health and safety of everyone in the school, both students and staff. Our focus also is on the entire student, so social, emotional, and mental health of students is very important this year. So we are going to be focused on that, particularly in the early days of school. So that will be important as well. But, we realize too that the most important thing is for us to not only come back, but stay back. And that is the goal through these tiered mitigation strategies. In addition to this, does it allow for the provision of educational and extracurricular activities? And yes, that is built into our strategies. So we are looking for opportunities for students to participate in athletics, extracurriculars, and clubs, music, and the arts. So we are looking to provide students with a complete experience with many opportunities. In addition, what I'd like to say is that, we are looking here that the strategies that we would employ would vary based on community transmission rates. The thing that is different from this presentation compared to the last presentation, though, is that we are now receiving more direction from the state of New York, and we are aware that perhaps even more guidance is coming out later this week from the New York State Department of Health. So let's look at a summary here of what some of these tiered mitigation strategies would be, and that is in the next slide here. We talked about them previously. So we know our plan is informed by CDC guidance, by the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Albany County Department of Health, New York State Department of Health, New York State Department of Education, and the governor. So we have universal masking indoors. That's in all schools inside in New York State, and that is per the direction of Governor Hochul. We are going to be maintaining 3 feet of physical distancing. And that will be very important here as we generally take a look and overview some of the quarantining protocols. We also will be continuing the extensive cleaning and hygiene protocols that we highlighted last week. So that means enhanced cleaning of all high-touch areas, using the foggers. Our staff has a sign-in, sign-out sheet when they clean spaces, and so that is tracked extensively. So that extensive cleaning will continue. And on buses, classrooms, and where possible in the cafeteria, we will be assigning seating. And that is also to facilitate a more targeted approach to quarantining, where we avoid taking out an entire class or an entire bus, which is unfortunately the situation that we dealt with during the most intense period of the surge last year. So we would also mitigate density through grab-and-go lunches as possible, outdoor tables, picnic tables. We hope to be purchasing some to provide greater opportunities for outdoor dining, or mats for students to sit on when they're outdoors to provide less density and just the pleasant experience and joy of eating outdoors. So we're doing the best that we can to mitigate density in the cafeteria areas and areas that are more high traffic. Leaving windows open when possible. That is an extremely important strategy to increase airflow and ventilation, keeping propped doors open to increase ventilation, having MERV 13 filters, which are more selective at filtering pathogens and increasing ventilation in all classrooms. So I know ventilation is an extremely important area here. Mr. Brian Kraft, who is our Director of Facilities, is on the call. Mr. Kraft, do you want to add anything here to the work that has been done in ventilation? I know we've increased the fresh air flow from 10% to 20%. It's doubled, and it's more than double the recommended area there. The other point to note as well is that that I think is also important is that we had some studies done. You want to speak to ventilation, Brian, with regard also to just simple activities like keeping windows open as well?
Yeah, so last year we implemented it through an engineering study. We increased the outside air percentage. We start the units at least 2 hours before school starts and 2 hours after school activities end. And it's really, we follow a practice of bringing in the maximum amount of outside air for being fully loaded. And then when we're not loaded, it allows us to just kind of like purge the rooms and make sure that they're as clean as possible as we go. And then the windows is, I had to look that up yesterday, but the number they provided us was that a window being open 3 inches in a normal classroom would be like 15 air changes an hour in that classroom. So it's substantial. And we kind of allow it till, there is a period when the teacher has to decide that it's maybe too cold in the room. But the interesting thing is we did not see a super increase in energy usage last year like we thought either. So that worked out well, but it's, so. think that's it.
Thank you, Brian. I think that's very helpful as well. One of the things to note here is that last night we had our fall sports presentation. Mr. Stein, our athletic director, assisted by our two faculty athletic managers, were on and presented to the fall sports parents and athletes. The procedures for athletes in high-risk sports were also announced at that time, and we will be posting Mr. Stein's presentation up on our website. High-risk sports for the fall are identified as football, cheer, and volleyball. All other sports are not identified as high-risk sports. We are allowing all athletes to participate, vaccinated and unvaccinated. We are just requiring in high transmission zones, which we are in now, that all unvaccinated athletes be tested once a week. In a substantial zone, it would be 1/3 of them would be tested for surveillance testing. And then in a moderate zone, 10% of those unvaccinated athletes would be tested. So these are examples here of all the mitigation strategies that we have put in place for the school year. Let's go to the next one. So testing. So per the Albany County Department of Health, any student that develops symptoms will be sent home. And again, this is how we're being directed by the Albany County Department of Health. So that student will need to obtain a COVID test, and this is important to note. That COVID test must be a lab-based PCR test. Rapid tests are not accepted as a return to school. So this must be a lab-based PCR test to return to school. All students, even those with pre-existing medical conditions documented on file last year, so that would include allergies or conditions that would demonstrate the symptoms of COVID-19. Those students will be need to be tested if they have COVID-19 like symptoms. And so the family will be required to get new orders for the present school year. So the first occurrence of COVID-19, you need to be tested, but then with the doctor's note, if there are, those symptoms are caused by a condition such as, for example, allergies, then a doctor's note would be required to get new orders for the present year. Let's go to the next one. So some notes here about quarantine. So I had hoped by this week that we would have very specific guidance from the various counties with regard to quarantine protocols. None of the counties have that guidance finalized. We expect it will be available by the end of the week, however. So key points here. First of all, the county, Albany County Department of Health determines quarantine protocols. We don't determine them. We are directed by the Albany County Department of Health as to who is going to require quarantine and who will not require quarantine. Just want to emphasize again, the Department of Health are good partners here we have a wonderful working relationship with them. They're working on finalizing quarantine protocols. I think here's the good news. These quarantine protocols will be much more targeted than those that were in effect last year. So again, and I mentioned this before, that the quarantine last year was if you had a positive case in a class, and this was particularly true during December, January, February, then what will happen will be, we'll look at where the child was. We'll look at where they were sitting, what the vaccination status of the student was the student wearing a mask, was physical distancing of either 6 feet or more, or in some cases 3 to 6 feet. If it's greater than 3 feet and the student was wearing a mask during the exposure period, most likely that student will be exempt from quarantine. So again, it will be very targeted, it will be very focused. We're awaiting final determinations, and when we have that, we will certainly post it on the website. And that certainly could be a topic of future PAC meetings. So let's go to the next one here. So what happens if my child is quarantined? So if an entire class is quarantined, then that class would transition to remote learning for the duration. And then the classroom teacher would continue to provide instruction in that case. What we are really hoping with the new quarantine guidance, though, is that it will be much more targeted and the impact of quarantine will be greatly diminished. So let's look at the next slide. So what happens if my child is quarantined? So let's take a look at if individual students are quarantined, but not the entire class. So we'll employ a home instruction model. So there will be a designated home instruction teacher. That teacher will arrange to set up a Google Classroom for the students who are quarantined. And that student will be a direct connection, a liaison to the classroom teacher. All students who are in quarantine on the elementary level will have a certified teacher with them in an online classroom to provide instruction and support.
Mr. Court, I can jump in if you would like.
Oh, great! I'm good to hear you, Ms. Skeels. That's awesome.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you. So, as Mr. Court said, we hope that the quarantining will be more targeted, so fewer kids have to lose time from face-to-face instruction. But obviously, that makes it a little bit more complicated because you could have a range of different students here, perhaps a bus contact, perhaps a classroom contact, etc. So what we will be doing is at the elementary level, we'll have a teacher, and we have several teachers already aligned who will open up. They will be told, okay, these 4 students, let's say, are on quarantine. So they will open up a classroom. They will send the link to those students. They will do a morning meeting. They will say hello to the students. And that teacher's responsibility will be to coordinate with whoever the classroom teacher is. Maybe there's a first grader and a third grader to get what the work and instruction might be. They'll build a schedule and they will provide that support to the students in real time, live, via Zoom or Google Meet. And they will be there for a substantial part of the student's day to help them through that work and help them to stay up to date for whatever amount of time they may be out. Sometimes by the time we find out about a positive case and with the delay in testing, it might be 3 days, it could be up to 5 days. That one person will be there seeing the child through and will really serve as the liaison to make sure that that student is up to date and has all the work that they need and all the support that they need. Understandably, 6 through 12 is a bit different because students in 6 through 12 have a variety of classes and they have many different teachers in the course of a day. So in the same way, they will have a home instruction teacher. Think of them like a homeroom teacher for our secondary students. They will set up the Google Classroom. They will work to find out what all the assignments are. And they will get all those assignments ready. They will meet with the students. They will let them know what is expected and what the homework is. That's not dissimilar to what we had done in the past. If somebody, unfortunately broke an arm and couldn't be in for a few days, a tutor would bring them work and say, okay, this is the work you have, and be the liaison. They obviously could not be certified in all the subjects. So what we will do to help our students is okay, here are the classes, here is the work, and then we will have teachers who will be available to, we're calling it tutor, but actually just support those students in the work. So let's say I can see Troy on my screen now. I hope, Troy, you're never quarantined, but let's say Troy is quarantined and he needs some help in global history. So we will have a global history who will join the Zoom classroom and be able to help support Troy in doing the work that he is doing so that he can stay right on track. And when he comes back to school, he'll be up to date. So these will be other North Colony teachers. They may not necessarily be the actual classroom teacher, but that person will support and then we'll be able to jump in and then help the students to stay on track. And their classroom, their home instruction teacher will arrange that within the Google Classroom. So the child, the student, will only have one place to log in, and then the teachers that they need to support them will come into that classroom to help them with that work for that duration of the quarantine.
Thank you, Ms. Skeels.
Sure, I hope that was helpful. It's a little complicated, but I think we have a good infrastructure and a good system to support our students.
Jenna put a question in the class, will all classrooms have a Google Classroom?
So many of our teachers have Google Classrooms, but for our students who will be quarantined, they will have one home base to go to. So they don't have to navigate. They will go to that home instruction. That tutor will send out a link and say, okay, I have these, let's say, 5 students that are on my caseload right now for home instruction. And so I will work with them and I will get them all set up. So we're going to try to make it as easy for the students as possible.
Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. So the next slide has to do with the Capital Region BOCES Virtual Learning Academy, the Cooperative Virtual Learning Academy, the acronym CVL. So just want to stress here, CVL is for students who are immunocompromised or who have family members who are immunocompromised. And, we are requiring medical documentation of that. We and BOCES are communicating directly with these families. So that communication is commencing and is ongoing. The students in the CVL Academy will follow the BOCES calendar for school, and that will be published shortly. Registration for this, we are accepting no more registrations for the CVL after today. So, again, this is ongoing. It's being built right now. And we will be contributing 2 teachers to the CVL, and more information will be forthcoming on that. For the 712, again, we as a region, not just North Colony, are still working and building on finalizing this model. So we're working internally here, and we're working with partners in BOCES and in neighboring school districts. We are going to have more details forthcoming the next week in terms of start date and the like. I think it's important to note that we're looking at a program for about 35 students, grades 7 through 12 throughout the district. And so that is a very targeted program, and we will be working directly with those parents. So we mentioned here at the end, we have a questions page. So we will be publishing this. This will be put up on our website. So if you have specific questions in these areas, again, athletics, curriculum and instruction, food services, health and safety, human resources question, mental health, wellness, special education, school buildings and facilities, technology and transportation. Please submit those specific questions to the email addresses that you see there, and you will get a direct and focused and informed answer. So that essentially is where we are at this point in time. Jane, I think we can flip out of the presentation now and see if in our audience, if there are any questions. I know elementary individual school meetings were held, have been held this week. Athletics had a meeting. I know the high school had a meeting tonight. So we are getting close. We're excited about what is happening. We are also having significant construction that we are working to button down in the various buildings. And I know that has not allowed some of the visitations to buildings that people would like. We do apologize for that. Doing the best we can. And I think we, like everybody throughout the United States of America, we're victims of the supply chain and, but we are optimistic about getting ready and starting school and excited to see your children and our families. Any questions? Paloma, I heard there was a potential to purchase picnic tables for some of the elementary schools. We are working through that. So you did hear correctly on that, and we are working at the purchase of picnic tables. There's a couple of options. There's picnic tables. There's also some schools prefer there's mats that students can bring in, and they're very flexible. That they can use them for class spaces or eating spaces. And we can also use the picnic tables for class spaces as well as eating as well. Anything else? Again, it's great to hear from you. We're going to do, we will do an update as needed. So if there's significant information that comes out, particularly on Friday, then we will add that. But we are absolutely going to be touching base back in September. So perhaps the first full week of school or not. But if we need to get on next week, we will be happy to get on next week if any new information comes on. When there is more definitive information about quarantine, which we hope could be tomorrow or certainly by Friday, we will be happy to share that. The county guidance of all the counties in the region, their guidance is in a draft form, and we've been told specifically and explicitly to not share that. But we, I think, conveyed to you the intent of the new guidance, which is more focused and targeted. Antigen testing will be used for the surveillance testing in high-risk sports. Yes. Ms. Skeels, am I missing any?
Yes, we have a question about mask wearing when students are outside. So for example, if a student is outside during recess or outside for a PE class, for example, hopefully we have some nice weather in the fall, will masks be required in those situations?
No, they will not. As long as, students maintain 3 feet of social distancing, they will not be required outside.
And I would just like to add, for those of you, which is almost all of you, who are also on the PAC last year, you might remember that we had a very big, voluminous, I might say, back to school plan that was posted on the website. We are currently updating that. And obviously the guidance has changed and as the new governor has come in. So that plan right now is offline as we're making all the changes to align with what the new governor has shared with us and what the county is sharing with us. So we will be bringing that forward and that will be back online probably next week. But if you're looking for it right now, we are currently working on it to make sure that it aligns with the current guidance, not last year's guidance.
So Lisa asked about attestation. Right now, we are not requiring attestation. Questioning about testing, will testing be required? So we are meeting with the Albany County Department of Health, we meaning the schools in Albany County, on Friday. The counties received millions of dollars in grant funding to conduct surveillance testing in schools. And so we are anticipating Albany County revealing what that plan might look like for each of the schools. I think that is another layer of mitigation that we would employ. And fortunately, that grant money has made the circumstance much easier for schools to conduct that. So we will find out what the Albany County plan is on Friday, and that certainly could be another important component of the PAC update. Great question. Questions here. PTA antigen testing is not. Can students use a PCR as well? Karen, from what I understand, the strategy that would be used would be pool testing, which is a relatively simple test to administer, and it is random. I'm not able to give you any more details on that because I still need to find that out from the county. But they found that it would be a swab inside the mouth, and that's. I think it would start with a few, and then if they had more positives, then that would lead to further testing. I can probably give you a more articulate and clearer explanation of that after I attend that county meeting.
Yeah, I know that you're still waiting for guidance. The question was coming from a parent who's in the medical field, and that kind of testing is not as reliable. So what that does to the student who needs to get into school, if they take a PCR test and it's negative, will that be acceptable to get back into school?
I don't think so, Karen. And again, I need to get more information on that. I think these are more really to just, get a snapshot of what the level of transmission is in the school community. But I owe you, I will get clarity on that.
Okay.
And I think, one of the key things that we're asking people to do, I'd like to conclude with two asks here on that. One is common sense when your child is not feeling well. So if your child is symptomatic, please don't send your child to school. Please keep your child home. The same is true for the adults. I think sometimes we as adults, and I think, we all tend to think, well, the right thing to do is power through and to come in when you're not feeling well, and that is not the case at all. The right thing to do is to stay home. So when you are not feeling well, when your when your child is not feeling well, please keep them home. Jenna asked, will the emails still be going out regarding school cases, and we'll still keep you informed? Yes. Okay, teacher, we have a high rate of vaccinations. We have a high rate of teacher vaccinations. I would say it's in the vicinity of 90%, it may be even greater than that. Any other questions? So Sage and Troy, are you ready to come back to school?
Yeah, definitely. I was in there on Thursday to do some stuff for Student Board of Finance, and it looked like they were getting it all together. So I'm very excited.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah, definitely excited to come back.
Awesome. Good.
Sage, are you home from your tour of colleges, or are you still on the road and doing the PAC meeting even on the road?
No, I'm back now.
Good.
Thank you I think you just got back, so thank you for being here again. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, Jenna, is there a construction update? Mr. Kraft can also add to this. Just prior to this meeting, I got out of a construction meeting at about 6:25 tonight. So we are working with our various contractors and our construction management to make sure that we are ready. At some schools, there is work to be done, and there will be work that will be done second shift after the start of school. But that has our full and utmost attention. Mr. Kraft, do you want to add anything?
I think you said it well. We're in the final run here to get it done. And I think after our meeting earlier, I feel much better. So I think we have a plan to get there.
Right. We were bringing in extra support in multiple areas to get this accomplished. And, with that human power available, we believe we'll push over the finish line and then go back to over the finish line in second shift and do some tidying up along the way. Board of Ed meetings going back to being played on YouTube. I feel I missed watching. When we are live, it's far more difficult. We'll work on that on YouTube. Bottom line, Jenna, is I hear you. I think one of the board decisions that they have to make is the board also prided itself on going to meetings in each of the schools within the district, and rotating those meetings. That makes it difficult to live stream. So that's a board decision that will be coming. I will certainly convey that interest and concern to our Board of Education who are on this call, certainly participating in the live stream. Any other questions here? Ryan, what did we end up with for attendance this evening? I bet it was a lot. In any case, what I want to also emphasize is that our staff has been working so hard and been doing an incredible job. So our teachers have been working so hard at getting ready for school, participating in a variety of professional development to get ready. Our principals have been engaging in extraordinary efforts to get the school building ready, to develop schedules, to implement the mitigation strategies, to host meetings, to communicate with parents. Our support staff, Mr. Kraft, is on the call tonight. So our custodial staff, our buildings and grounds, our facility staff, they have had an extraordinary amount of work to do this summer to get our schools ready. Transportation, it's a big job here. We run about 900,000 miles a year in busing. So it's complex, it's involved. So they've been working very hard to provide the very best and to develop the schedule for the year. So again, I thank you all for coming to the PAC, for your continued participation. I know Ms. Gills put in the chat that we were at 360 people on attendance this evening. Please know that always that when we have more information, we will certainly share that with you and we will keep you posted. So I wish you all a great evening. It's kind of ominous here as I look out my window. It is only 7:41 and it is very dark out there. So I'm going to take it as the optimistic sign that school is starting, and I'm eager for the fall. I know this is meteorological fall, and real fall is about 3 weeks away, but we're here, we're back, we're excited and we're going to stay back and we're all going to work together. So again, thank you to our community. Thank you to our parents. Thank you to our staff. Thank you to our students who participate in PAC and give us so much valuable input. That's very, very helpful. Have a great evening, everyone.